What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Yanks of the Cop. We are here before the biggest match of the season. Liverpool, Tottenham, tomorrow, top of the table, massive, massive game. As always, I'm your host, Stevie, alongside my co-host, Scans and Wahomie. And we had to bring on a very special guest for this. He is the host of the Last Word on Spurs podcast. We have Ricky. Ricky, thank you so much for joining us, man. How are you?
My pleasure, guys. Yeah, excited, nervous, scared. It's a big, big game coming our way tomorrow night. Just trying to keep a lid on it. Obviously, we're seeing teams around us dropping points. So it's a very, very exciting league. And it's nice to go to Anfield with something to actually ride on the game. There's a real opportunity now to go there. And hopefully, Spurs are in a position where it looks like we might be doing something this season, which is quite exciting.
Quite exciting. Honestly, it has been really exciting watching you guys. Really hoping that tomorrow you do not put your best foot forward and that we beat you. But that being said, hey, Liver Spurs, it's in my heart. I like you guys a lot. Love Mourinho. Should be an interesting match. But before we get down into it, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button if you have it, and leave us your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to get back to it. But for the opening statements, I think I'm just going to speak for everybody here. We just want to take a moment to remember, Liverpool. He passed away recently, I think last night or 2 nights ago. And, he was a huge member of the Liverpool community, as well as, PSG, Villa, all these other clubs that he's been at, and nothing but good things to say about him. From anyone who's ever met him, thoughts go out to anyone that is close to him, his family, but he'll be remembered forever in Liverpool hearts. And we are very grateful for everything he's brought our team and to the game of football. So we really appreciate that. So now that we got that out of the way, do you guys want to add anything, or you guys want to get right into the rundown?
I'll just say one thing. Yeah, thanks for the treble, Gerard. Although it wasn't the real treble, it was still a treble 2001.
Hey, treble nonetheless. Thank you for giving Stevie G his first run out. We really appreciate that. I would
just add that it's kind of like a ritual of mine that whenever I'm hungover, I watch football highlights. And I always end up watching the FA Cup of that year and the Michael Owen final, which is unbelievable. So yeah, it was a good one. Makes me feel better every single time.
Yeah, I mean, some of my earliest memories of a Liverpool fan were watching YouTube clips of when he was the coach, and some of the great highlights from when he was there. So may he rest in peace. We'll never forget, and will never be forgotten. So legend. Absolute legend. But let's get into it. Let's get into the rundown with Ricky. Ricky, we need to get everything about Tottenham. We need to know what we're getting ourselves into tomorrow, what we can expect. So I really want to start with your summer business, because I saw Tottenham as a team, especially when you guys got Mourinho and the squad that you had. I was really impressed. I was like, listen, they're building something. I think that if Mourinho can bring in the guys that he likes, that you guys are going to be a top 4 contender, and been even better than that this season. So what about the summer signings? Reguilon, Højbjerg, even Gareth Bale. What kind of impact have these guys brought to the team this year?
Yeah, I think, to be fair, going into the summer, I think we went into it with a bit of trepidation, not really knowing what to expect in terms of investment. I think for any of the guys that listen to this channel, like ladies and men, of course, Spurs have always been a club that you always feel going into a transfer window, never fully address all of the areas. We end up coming out still needing, 1 or 2 players from 1 or 2 different areas, and we never end up coming out of a window feeling really satisfied. This is the first time I can really say, under Daniel Levy's guidance of the club, ownership of ENIC, that we came out of this transfer window feeling like we are prepared and ready for the season ahead of us. I think what also helped is, dare I say, obviously your neighbours Everton giving us a real opening day disappointing defeat for Spurs, and I think that kind of in a way accelerated Spurs' transfer business. Like you say, bringing in Gareth Bale, Sergio Reguilon. I think I have to say that Pierre-Emerick Højbjerg for me has been the bargain of the summer. I know every club around the country, around the world, they always have a player they look at and think he's the signing of the summer. But I do say Højbjerg, from the outside, even looking in at Tottenham, the way this guy has galvanised those players, a soldier, a captain without the armband. I think, leaving Southampton, I think Southampton fans maybe felt that the player let them down to some degree. I know obviously he's a former Bayern Munich player, had big, high aspirations of playing football at the very, very highest level. I think the Mourinho pull has been massive during that summer transfer window for many of these players. I think Reguilon has come from Real Madrid, a player that really, to be honest with you, I think he would be good enough to be in Real Madrid's team. We're very lucky that he hasn't seen eye to eye with Zinedine Zidane, which has made it possible for Spurs to acquire that player. For how long, I'm not too sure. I've already heard some rumours that Madrid are already inquiring about the buyback of the player. So that's one to keep an eye on. I would say, Gareth Bale, it's early days at the moment. I think you have to remember with Gareth Bale that he hasn't actually played fluent football over the course of a 12 to 18 month period. So I would just say, it looks very unlikely that Bale will be involved against Liverpool. But I think towards the latter part of the season, that's where I think Gareth Bale will hopefully prove his worth. Touching upon some of the other signings he made, Matt Doherty, I think Matt would probably say by his own admission it's not been the greatest of starts, but it's been difficult for him. He's suffered from COVID-19. He's had to battle Sergio Aurier so far for that right-back spot. Joe Hart, apart from being a good shouter and a good leader, I think in goal-wise, it hasn't been the greatest of performances from Joe Hart, but I think he's there to really try and instill that winning mentality. And to kind of, summarise this summer transfer window, what Spurs look to try and do is they try to bring in characters rather than players that have been there, done it, won it. I think Spurs now are at a point where they are desperately craving silverware. We've gone and obviously sold ourselves to the devil to some degree by bringing in Jose Mourinho. I think many would say that, the style of football, it's pragmatic, it's not attractive on the eye, but it does get results. And the way I describe Mourinho football is it's winning football. If you look at Mourinho's tenure so far at Spurs, his win ratio is right up there amongst the best Spurs managers in the history. So I think this game, bringing it into context now, it's so intriguing. I think Klopp, the way Liverpool set up and play, Mourinho on the counter. I'm going to be very interested to see just how Spurs approach the game. I expect Liverpool to have plenty of possession, and I expect Spurs with Son and Kane to try and hit Liverpool on the counter.
So, it's been an interesting season for Spurs so far. I think you surprised a lot of teams, in terms of your style of play, and in terms of how well you're doing, because obviously, the summer signings probably would expected top 4, but now you're actually probably challenging for the title. Like, how's the season gone for you? And did you really expect it to be this good, really, when, Mourinho came in and you made the summer transfers?
I think, homie, looking at the start of the season, I think if you said to a Spurs fan, we're going to be potentially contending for top 4 and we may have an outside chance of a trophy, I think we all would have snapped anyone's arms off for that. This is the club that hasn't won a trophy. I don't need to remind anyone for nearly 20, over a decade, should I say, rather than going to the specific number. I think now at a point where Spurs bringing in Jose Mourinho in, you have to win something. You have to take that next level. Spurs let go Pochettino, that was hugely popular within the club. And it's a case of where Maurizio took the club as far as he could. You couldn't change 22 players, therefore you had to change the manager. And Mourinho, to be to him, because of the summer business he's done now, I think, going into the start of the season, apart from the Everton defeat, I think there's this real optimism around Tottenham now. That, dare I say, we feel like we're in a title race, even though we maybe shouldn't feel like that. For Spurs to be top of the league in December, and it not be somehow alphabetical order sounds crazy. I think there's a genuine belief now around the team that we are involved in some form of a title race. However, it is still early on and we are only December. I think, as you guys will know, you've got to be there in March and April. That's where it really starts to home in. So for the moment, I think, like Jose says, we take each game as it comes, and it doesn't get any bigger than obviously the game we've got against you guys tomorrow night.
Yeah, Ricky, I guess I'm just curious. Oftentimes we see a lot of the teams in the Premier League start off really, really well. And then once December hits, that's when you kind of start to see some of those teams fall off a little bit. I don't think Spurs will be one of those teams, but what would you expect for the rest of the season? Do you think you guys have the legs to go the distance? Obviously, you'll still be in the Europa League as well, so that might make things a little difficult.
God, Scans question that is, my God. I think looking at the moment with Spurs, it's such a difficult way to analyse what is to be expected for the rest of the season. I mean, Spurs are averaging 2 points per game. If you do that over the course of a season, you're going to make top 4. Dare I say you'd have a chance at the title. I think the key for Spurs is, like I say, it's taking each game as it comes. But as I said off air to you guys, I think, ultimately my concern is when Van Dijk gets back, that's when Liverpool, for me, really are going to kick into gear. I think it's difficult at the moment because we've seen just how important Van Dijk is to this team. I know you got Salah, you got Firmino, Jota, I think, has been great for you. I think not having Van Dijk there is just mentally for the team. It is a psychological loss to not have him in the team. I generally believe that. And I've said this before, it's about accumulating as many points as possible whilst he's away and then seeing where we are when he's back in the team. But I think Spurs have got as good a chance as anybody of competing for a title. I look at Chelsea, I look at United with Solskjaer and Lampard there. I've got to be honest and say to you that as long as those two managers are there, I'm not that overly too concerned. I think Solskjaer's unproven. I don't think he's got the mentality to win trophies. I look at Lampard. Lampard, again, he's a young rookie manager learning his trade. Klopp has been there, done it, won it. Mourinho's been there, done it, won it. And I think, really this season, it's so exciting to see, what's to come. You look at the Premier League as well. Listen, Wolves are a good side. Southampton are a good side. Everton have got Ancelotti. This is why the Premier League is the most exciting league in the world, because you can't predict any result. But I would say to you, as long as Spurs keep on going at the moment the way they are, they've got as good a chance as anybody of being right up there.
Yeah. If any Spurs fans are watching this, they have to be jacked up. You're just going off and just killing it.
I'm jacked up, and I'm not even a Tottenham fan. I was about to say, this Rick guy really gets you going. But let's kind of take a peek at this game because, both Tottenham and Liverpool coming off of two frustrating draws. You guys drew Crystal Palace, we drew Fulham. I like to think that this game tomorrow is going to be an absolute. I think it's going to be just back and forth. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of goals scored, but it's going to be a hard-fought game because I think both of these teams are going to have a lot of energy wanting to get a result after these ties. Crystal Palace, how is that going to change your mindset and kind of motivate the team going into tomorrow?
Yeah, do you know what? In a way, I've got to be honest with you, Stevie. It was a result where, I've got to be honest with you, Palace, they deserved it second half. They played ever so well. And I think, you're not going to win every game. We have to understand the Premier League is the most fierce league competition in the world. You can't compare it to La Liga, Serie A for me. I think the Premier League, every team that turns up wants to give 100%, 120%. And therefore, that makes every game that bit harder. And I think what we have to appreciate is Spurs were coming off a Europa League game. Champions League as well is never easy. When you try and go from a Champions League game back into Premier League of a weekend is never easy. Right. I would say that the way it would affect the team going into it, I feel Spurs now have to go and get something at Liverpool. Whereas before this game, I would have maybe said to you that because of the nature, if Spurs had beaten Palace, they could maybe have afforded to go into the Liverpool game with a little bit less pressure. But I do feel now this game, Spurs have to try and take something. And that worries me because when you attack Liverpool, it worries me because of the nature of Liverpool's attack and what their options they've got. And Spurs, with Aurier at the back, if it's Sergio Aurier playing, or dare I say even that centre-back pairing for me of Alderweireld and Dyer, to me at the moment, I don't think that centre-back pairing is good enough to win a Premier League. That's just only my opinion. January, Spurs have to look at that again, look at Skriniar, who I know you guys are keen on as well. I think Liverpool's pace in their team really worries me. And that's why I think it's a disappointment that we didn't beat Palace and that we have to take something from this game if we can tomorrow night.
So just curious, in the last 7 games between Liverpool and Spurs, Liverpool won all games. Mourinho's lost the last 3 times to Klopp. And also Son hasn't scored the last 9 against Liverpool. Do you think that's going to play any major factor in tomorrow? Or do you think that's irrelevant and this game's just going to be decided on who gets a first goal tomorrow? Because obviously we know how Spurs might set up, and we know obviously if Liverpool go a goal behind Spurs, it's going to be much more harder for us to break you down. But if we take a goal first, do you think is it based on who gets the first goal, or is it going to be on Klopp or Jose's mind games? How do you think it's going to be best for you to approach this?
Yeah, it's a great question, Wahomie. I think, do you know what? It's a game where, to some degree, I think the form does go out the window because of the two managers and what they're like. They're both going to have their own tactical setup to try and navigate each other's positives and negatives of the team. I think for Liverpool, if I'm looking at Liverpool, what they need to do to stop Tottenham is stop Harry Kane. Kane is playing a much more withdrawn, deeper role this season. Therefore, if you can stop Harry Kane in that number 10 spot, feeding the balls through to Son, I think, that's where Liverpool will get their joy in this game. I think what we saw with Palace, which worked so well for them, is they really did surround Harry Kane in numbers, and Spurs just couldn't get the ball out to the left, to the right, to be able to bring other players into play. So I do feel with Tottenham, that's my only concern, is that they're starting to get worked out to some degree that if you stop Harry Kane, you do stop Tottenham, because obviously with Kane, his supply line is into Son's supply line is into Kane. Therefore, if you can take half the attack off in terms of Kane, you've got a great chance. I think Klopp always does well in the big games. He always, for me, he's a big game manager. He's good at getting big game results. And I put that down to him studying the opposition really well. I think Jose Mourinho, it's one of those where the players don't need any motivation for this game. I think, the nature of the game speaks for itself. It's the top two in the Premier League. I would say to answer your question that I think you're going to get two teams that are going to be very well tactically drilled. And I can see it being a quite cautious affair with Spurs sitting back, soaking up the pressure and looking to break Liverpool on the counter-attack, similar to what they tried to do against Palace and failed.
Yeah, Ricky, just last question here. I have kind of a question in two parts. Who would you say would be the key players to watch out for? Obviously, we know about Kane and Son. You kind of just touched on them. And what were your general thoughts about Ndombele? I think he's been somewhat of an enigma at Spurs. It seems like Mourinho is getting some. He's putting some faith in him now, and we're starting to see some results from that.
Yeah, I mean, just on your first point, I'd probably say to with Spurs, because it's been a real team collective performance this season in terms of the games, it's so hard to try and single out individual players. But I think Højbjerg has been formidable for Tottenham, as I mentioned, in midfield. He breaks play up. He actually he celebrates tackles on the pitch. It's actually quite incredible. You actually see him cheering and chanting players onto tackle, which is brilliant to see. So I think, he's very key to breaking up the play. And Ndombele, you mentioned there, to bring it onto him, he's very, very pivotal to this team. I think what we've seen that at the moment with Ndombele, Mourinho doesn't quite trust him yet to perform a full 90 minutes. We're seeing a lot where he's coming off for Lo Celso.
It's usually the 60th minute, right?
Exactly. The famous 60th minute, and Ndombele comes off, Lo Celso comes on. I will say Ndombele is, he's a wonderful player. It's just a shame we just can't get him to a full fitness 90 minutes yet. But from what I've seen of him, I think if he's in his best place in terms of his mentality and mindset, he can be one of the best players in the Premier League. I do believe that. I think at the moment, because the way what happened last season in terms of being in and out the team, I think he feels a lot more included this season. I think people have to remember, coming from a foreign country, it's never easy to come and settle in the Premier League. I think you guys know that as well. Firmino, Salah, it takes time. Chelsea made a very quick verdict on Salah. And look at him now at Liverpool, he's flourishing. It does take time, 12 to 18 months to get the player settled. Heung-min Son exactly the same at Tottenham. It took him a good season to settle in. So to answer your question on Ndombele, wonderful player. Would love to keep him fit for 90 minutes. But I would definitely say for Liverpool to watch out for Højbjerg in the middle, because he breaks up play. Heung-min Son and Harry Kane. And, say options off the bench. Lo Celso, of course, is a great player. Bergwijn is on there. Mora. So Spurs have got game changers on the bench as well. So it's going to make it to be a very exciting game tomorrow night.
Well, another player that, especially when Mourinho took over, I thought that this guy was going to absolutely re-explode on the scene. That's Dele Alli. I mean, you watch the Amazon documentary. It seemed like Mourinho doesn't like his practice tactics and how Dele Alli is not really a practice player. But it doesn't seem like, at least from an outsider's point of view, that he's had the impact that we all kind of thought that he's capable of. I mean, can you just tell us a little bit about what you're seeing as a Tottenham fan from Dele Alli and maybe his relationship with Mourinho?
I think it's tricky because when Mourinho first came in, he showed Dele a lot of love. And, he joked and said he wasn't the greatest trainer. And, he said that, you need to work harder. I think Dele has been one of those players where his career has always been an upward trajectory. So with Dele, he's had MK Dons, flourished for England, done so well for Tottenham in the first couple of seasons. And then to me, it feels like, only from an outside, that Dele's kind of took, it's difficult to really say this because obviously you don't know the guy, inside out, back to front, but it feels like Dele's kind of just mentally not been there the last year and a half. For whatever reason, maybe he's got his other hobbies and interests outside of football. We know he's a big gamer. We know he's into fashion. I don't quite know with Dele if his head's been in the right place. And it's a real shame because definitely the first couple of seasons, the potential was all there with Dele, scoring 20 plus goals. I think he had the same or even better goals and assist ratio than likes of Beckham, Scholes, Lampard, Gerrard, all at 21. He flew onto the seas. And, only from what I'm hearing internally at Tottenham, I've just got the feeling that with Dele, he needs to play regular football. The Euros is around the corner. From what I understand, that if the situation hasn't changed come January, then Dele will be allowed to leave the club on loan, probably to Paris Saint-Germain. There was heavy interest in Dele in January from Paris Saint-Germain. Daniel Levy wanted to keep the player. He wanted to try and ensure the player was integrated back in to give him a chance. I think the problem Dele's got at the moment is that the Spurs 11 pretty much picked off. So, if you're winning games, it's very hard just to bring a player back in. And, again, in the Europa League, we've got the same situation with Harry Winks. Harry Winks is another English player, can't get a run of games, can't get minutes. And ultimately, if you're not taking your opportunity in the Europa games, you are not going to get the opportunity in the Premier League. And Dele, I was quite shocked to actually see him come on at the weekend. He came on, I think it was only his second appearance this season in the Premier League. He played 45 minutes against Everton on the opening day. I would say on Dele Alli, I don't expect him to be at Tottenham come the end of the January window. I would expect Dele to get a move. He needs football for the Euros. It's a real shame. I was always a massive Dele Alli fan. I think Dele needs to go back to what was about Dele Alli. Go and play football. Go and fall back in love with the game. I think Jose needs players now that he can trust. And Dele at the moment is not a player that he can trust, unfortunately. It's a real shame. I love Dele Alli, but I think it's the time now.
Yeah,
I think it's already mentioned like the improvement of like Sergio Aurier. Like I think he was an accident waiting to happen, and now all of a sudden he looks like a complete new player.
Wahami is crazy. God, what a turnaround of a player. Do you know what's fascinating, guys? And you know this more than me because obviously you've seen it as well. That when you bring in players that offer competition to the squad, that automatically ups another player's game. And that is exactly what's happened with Sergio Aurier. We've brought in Matt Doherty. And to be fair, if you ask every Spurs fan now, they probably say they prefer Sergio Aurier at right back to Matt Doherty. And this is Spurs fans that beforehand were saying that Aurier is probably the worst right back in the league. We've done like a full circle now in the space of, a few months. But credit to Sergio Aurier. He has been incredible. And I just think a guy there that was craving out for competition now has the competition. And good luck to him. He's played ever so well. Again, I'm hearing that Serge could be agreeing a new contract with the club. And if he does agree that new contract, he's fully deserved it. He's been superb. And obviously, you guys watched the Amazon documentary. The way Mourinho spoke about him at times, I'm amazed that he's still here. So, no, good luck to him. Good luck to him. He's worked very hard for his opportunity and he's taken it.
Yeah, the other question that I have when it comes to Tottenham and specifically this game, there's no surprise about the injuries that we have, but I think when you think about how we play right now, we are so reliant on Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson to create our offense for us. When you look at who's playing in the midfield, typically right now with our injuries, it's typically Jordan Henderson, Gini Wijnaldum, and Curtis Jones at 19, and we're putting all of our eggs into the Curtis Jones basket to try to create for us, which has not gone great. He's played well, but just from a creative through the midfield, we've severely lacked that. And it seems like the teams are able to get a result from us and really push us. So the teams that go out of their way to try to shut down Trent and Robbo, either going 5 in the back and playing with the wing backs or just crowding the sidelines, making us go through the middle and having to play long balls. Do you think that, Mourinho could go some sort of style to try to shut down Trent and Robertson, or do you think he's just going to stick to what Tottenham's doing best right now, the 4-3-3, and kind of just playing your game?
I'll be honest with you, Stevie. With Mourinho so far this season, I haven't seen him really adapt his tactics to a particular opposition. I've seen him try and just basically with Tottenham sit back, soak up the pressure, hit on the counter, and And whilst players will have their individual jobs in terms of what they need to do, I don't see Spurs changing too much in terms of their style of play since the start of the season. That will be, I think, again, to try and frustrate Liverpool, sit back and then hope to pounce on the counter-attack. And, the one thing Tottenham have to be, which they haven't always been this season, is clinical. You will not get too many chances at Anfield as an opposing team. At Spurs will need to take any opportunity. Obviously, I know it's very easy to say that, but Spurs can't afford to be wasteful against Liverpool because they will be punished. I still, going into this game, Anfield is one of those grounds that, for me, I feel like the fans suck the ball into the net. I can't explain it. This is, again, more than any other team that I ever see, or any other stadium. But honestly, Liverpool have this special ability of being able to suck the ball into the net. So Spurs have to be on their A game tomorrow to get anything from Liverpool. But if you said to me right now, would you take a point? I would bite your hands off for it. I really would. I think I'm not greedy. I think to come away from Anfield with a point would be a great result. I think Liverpool are a great side. I think you've got to pay respect to the work Jurgen Klopp has done there over the last 4 or 5 years. It's been incredible to watch the way he's revolutionised that side. Every player buys into his ethos. And to keep the squad motivated as well after winning a title was never an easy thing to do anyway, but he seems to have done that at the moment. And I've got to say, even as well, I know Jose Mourinho was playing it down today in his press conference about Liverpool's injury list. I think even more so when you see what Liverpool have had to overcome this season in terms of injuries, to still be where they are in the league tells you the testament of everything that Jurgen Klopp is as a man to get the players to buy into their philosophy. But to answer your question, I don't see Spurs changing their tactics much for this one particular game.
But overall, wouldn't you say that Mourinho does ask he's not afraid to ask his wingers to play a little more defensively at times? Would you expect Bergwijn and Son to track Robertson and Trent?
Yeah, to be honest with you, Scan, yeah, I mean, to be fair, I mean, that's kind of their job anyway, because I think you've seen this season that if the wingers do not track, you don't get in the team. I know that sounds a bit too over the top to say that, but Bergwijn, for example, I think many Spurs fans are questioning how Bergwijn is getting in this team. Because to be fair, Bergwijn's, I thought, greatest strengths were he runs at players. We saw his goal against Manchester United. We saw his goal against Manchester City. His greatest trait for me was bombing forward. But now what seems to happen with Mourinho is that, in a way, he's kind of made these players so disciplined where, first and foremost, you've got to track back. You've got to press. That's first and foremost. Then if you can attack, great. But if you're not willing to put in the hard shift, you won't get in the team. And that's why Dele's not getting in the team. That's why Winks is not getting in the team. And Lamela at the moment, obviously, he's out injured, but Moura as well on the bench. So it's a first and foremost for Mourinho that it's discipline first and it's attack second. And as long as you're buying into that ethos, you will get a chance in this team.
Yeah, it's Jose 101 right there.
This is it.
But Andrew and Wahome, I want to ask you guys a little bit about Liverpool. Knowing what we know about Tottenham, knowing Mourinho's style, how do you guys expect us to line up tomorrow? I mean, do you think we're going to see the Henderson, Wijnaldum, Jones midfield combination again? How are you guys expecting us to go?
I'm going to be a bit controversial.
Go on.
Sorry. So I was going to be a bit controversial, and I'm going to be asking players to take injections. Because I think, forget Palace away. I think for this game, this is a tight decider for us because of how Man United win tomorrow and win their game in hand. They're like 2 points behind us. If Leicester, Southampton win, they go again like to a point behind us. Like, it's a match win for us. So for me, I'm taking the hit and saying, look, I'm asking Matt to take some pills to go with the back spasm. We've seen Hender do it before. I'm asking him to take the injection just to get through that game and no rest for Palace. So I'm going with obviously the usual back four and making Matic play and saying get over your back spasm. It's just a back spasm. It's not like it's got a broken leg. So get over it. And then in midfield, I think because of Tottenham's low block and how they're going to be so defensive in terms of like playing the counter, I think we need creativity. I think we need someone in there that is going to creativity. And as much as I know Jones played outstanding in the last game, I know Naby just come back, but I'd force him to play 60 minutes just to get some creativity. I'd force him. I'd say, look, take the hit, take the blow, injection, wherever it is. Just you last 60 minutes or 50 minutes, then we take you off for Jones. because we need some creativity. And I think Tottenham are going to aim to nullify Robbo and Trent, because that's a smart thing to do. Because in the midfield, there's no creativity. Stop Robbo and Trent, you stop Liverpool without Thiago being there. So I think you need someone in that can play penetrative passes, that can take on players. And then I'd look in the second half potentially to bring on Jones in the second half, and then maybe bring on Ox if we need a goal. But the usual front three. And I think for me, the front three need to step up tomorrow night, because they haven't been good enough. We've been over-reliant on Jota, and I think the front three need to really step up tomorrow and perform in front for a big game, because we need them back big time, especially Mane. We need them big time tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm worried about the Naby thing. He'd be my choice, to go for. But again, Klopp came out today, said that he's a maybe, and that he even called out that he has no rhythm right now. So I don't know if putting him into this type of game is going to be the answer. I think if he was firing on all cylinders, I would say 100% absolutely we need his profile in there. But I don't know. Klopp did not offer a lot of reassurances around him today in his press conference. But what do you think, Andrew? How do you think we're going to line up?
I think it's going to be the same team against Fulham. I agree with you. I don't think that Naby Keita is going to start this game. I think it'd be very unwise to do that. I actually respect the hell out of Mourinho with what he's done with Tanguy and Ndombele, because he seems to be, everybody jokes about the 60-minute rule, but he seems to be on a minutes restriction. And I think that's something that Naby Keita needs. He needs to maybe even play 45 minutes, maybe even 30 minutes. I don't know what it is, but this guy, whenever he comes and plays for a couple games, he picks up an injury and he's out for 3 weeks to a month. And just like Klopp said today, he loses that rhythm. And to just jump on that as well, I think that Curtis Jones deserves to start. He's been playing really well recently. I think he had a tough first half against Fulham, but other than that, he's been one of our best players so far in that midfield spot. So I think he's gelled well with Gini and Jordan Henderson in there. So I think he deserves that. Even if Naby is fit, I wouldn't give it to him. And same thing goes for Ox. But I think this game's really interesting because both teams are so similar in the way they line up. We're seeing Harry Kane drop a lot deeper this year with Mourinho, and that's, I think, the results tell the truth of that. He's been flourishing. He has, what does he have, 9 or 10 goals and 9 assists or something like that?
Yeah, just crazy. Yep.
Yeah, just a ridiculous output right now. So I would expect it to be a midfield battle. I would expect us to really try to utilize those fullbacks, and I think those two, Trent and Robertson, are going to be the difference makers for us.
Yeah, Ricky, I want to let you have a chance to get in here, because when I look at Tottenham, there's 2 areas where I think you get midfield. We saw in the first half against Fulham, they dominated us in the midfield last game. And then also, Harry Kane going up against, our center back partnership. I love Fabinho, but, Matip has the question mark. So, how is your confidence with your midfield and them being able to take control of the game tomorrow?
Good question. I would say for Spurs going into this one, I would like, obviously, Lloris will start obviously in goal. I'd see a back four. I'd see a centre-back pairing of Toby Alderweireld, Eric Dyer, left back, Sergio Reguilon, that definitely is his spot. And then at midfield, I would expect Højbjerg and Ndombele, I would expect to start the game. Gareth Bale is unlikely to play. I don't think Gareth Bale will be involved. So we're going to see, again, the link-up of Kane Son, Harry Kane, and I would say Steven Bergwijn. I think Mourinho really likes his discipline, like I was saying to Scans earlier. And I think, again, what this game will be crucial about, guys, is substitutions. I think, subs will play a massive, massive part in this game as it goes on. I see it being very tight, very cagey. I don't see there being many, many goals in it at all. If you were to say to me that, would I take 0-0 at half-time? Yes, I would take 0-0 at half-time. I think Spurs, to be honest with you, going into the second half where Liverpool will be pressing Tottenham, I think it's there for us to try and, take one on the counter. And, I've been really kind of in my mind thinking, well, how will this game go? I still feel Spurs defensively, we're not as sound as I would want us to be. And I don't know if you guys have obviously had on previous Spurs games, the one issue we've got is defending set pieces. It's our biggest Achilles heel. That if you look at our last, I think 4 games, our goals have all come from direct, set piece free kicks, and we've got a struggle of dealing aerially with opposition. So basically my message is don't give away any free kicks to Liverpool. Try and keep it tight first half. Second half, again, I think, Lo Celso, that Ndombele one we mentioned earlier, Scans, that's a key change that, normally happens around the hour mark. But of course, Harry Kane, Heung-min Son on the pitch, Spurs have always got a chance. But I have a feeling Liverpool will obviously score in this game. I just think defensively...
So I've got a question, Ricky. So I noticed against Chelsea, Man City and Arsenal, Tottenham were allowing teams to go down the flanks and get crosses in the box.
Yeah.
With Robert and Trent, because obviously you were making it narrow in the middle to making sure that they couldn't create through the middle. But obviously Liverpool's strength are full of fullbacks. So will you actually not try and do that method of because last year Liverpool scored the most in the Premiership for headed goals. So although they're not the tallest, Mane and Salah and Firmino are very good in the air. So will you allow Trent and Robert that kind of freedom just to go down the flanks to get crosses in, knowing that's our strength? Will you actually adapt it?
I think to some degree, we were saying earlier, that the job of Bergwijn being in the team and Son is to really try and double up and also become, a benefit for the fullback. So, you're going to have hopefully Son there, working with Reguilon. You have on the other side Bergwijn working with Aurier. It really is about partnerships for Spurs in this game because, like you say there, Trent Alexander-Arnold and on the other flank, Robertson, they are the most formidable pair, I think, in the Premier League. I go back to when we had, Danny Rose and Carl Walker. No one could spot Tottenham. We were a great team to watch on the eye, flamboyant, attacking fullbacks. The only way you can stop that from happening is to really ask your wingers to try and double up and help out, your fullback. The problem with Liverpool, I watch him and I think, these guys don't stop running. These guys just do not stop going. 93rd minute, Trent is still going like a train. And that's the concern for Spurs. I worry that as the latter of this game goes on, I just worry Liverpool's strength in the fullback areas could ultimately be Tottenham's downfall. But what I would say is on the point you made there about the aerial threat, Spurs have got a real issue about dealing with set pieces in the air. So you took the words out of my mouth. Most aerial goals, you say there, I say most aerial goals maybe scored there by Liverpool. That's a big worry for Tottenham, and it's an area that Spurs have to be on the ball with tomorrow. But I do expect them to concede, if I'm being honest with you. I just can't see Spurs going to Anfield and keeping a clean sheet as much as I'd love to see them do so.
But do you feel like, I think it was last season, the year before, Mane gave Aurier quite a problem. Maybe because of the penalty. Do you think that? That Aurier's been amazing this season, no doubt about it. But do you think that he's going to be the biggest test now against? And also because Mane's not going to form, but normally big games he normally has turned up and put in a good performance. He did against Wolves and Leicester. Do you see that in terms of? I know for us, stopping Kane and Son is going to be a tactical battle for us, but do you see that as a key area, like how Aurier does against Mane and Robert?
I would ask the same question with Reguilon and Salah as well.
Yeah, I totally agree, guys. The thing with Aurier is that as much as I've praised him, people do feel he was at fault for Palace's... Well, he was at fault. He gave away the free kick the weekend. And again, it's an area where Aurier doesn't have to give the free kick away. The guy isn't running anywhere. I hate to say it, that in a way is Sergio's makeup as a player. He will make silly fouls. On the whole, this season, he's done really, really well. I think... Again, going back to the Amazon documentary, what you see Mourinho say against all the big teams is do not foul, let the players stay on their feet, do not give away cheap free kicks, cheap opportunities. And to answer your question, I think whilst everyone says the game can be won in midfield, I think equally the game can be won at fullbacks because of how good Liverpool's are and Tottenham, how much we've got to be on top of our game. So my worry is that if Liverpool's fullbacks have the game they want to, and no matter what Spurs do, I worry the game could get away from us. So again, for me, it's about being disciplined more than trying to impose our attack at fullback. But I do agree with Homie. It's those areas are very, very key. And like you say, there Scans the Reguilon matchup with Robertson. It's going to be very interesting because Reguilon's a very quick, fast, pacey player. He's got his work cut out tonight to try and help Spurs defend.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to watch, that's for sure. Scans and Mahomey, I want to ask you guys just a quick question on, Liverpool and where we're at, with how much that we've struggled on the road this season. Very clear that we have a lot of issues there. We're doing a lot better at home. especially coming off the draw against Fulham. How big do you think the 2,000 fans in the stadium are going to help carry us in the game tomorrow?
I think they're going to be huge. I mean, I know we haven't been dependent on fans at Anfield this season because we obviously had a good performance against Leicester without the fans. But I think against Wolves they were crucial. Like we went into that game like Wolves. The one thing I've noticed about Liverpool, I said it after the Fulham game, is that at home we're always able to have a fast start and actually be on the aggressive. It seems to be away from home that we're really lethargic and slow, and we struggle to get in the game until the second half. But I think at home we've always been able to have that fast start. So I expect us with the fans. I think the fans are going to be electric. They're going to be singing about Jerry Houllier tomorrow night. There's going to be so much passion in the atmosphere because of Houllier and how much of a legend he was. They're going to be the fans are also going to be really up for it because they know it's Spurs. They know this is a massive match. Spurs are flying this season. Like it's Jose Mourinho coming to Anfield. We've had some massive games with Mourinho the last 10, 15 years with him. So they're going to be up for it. And I think they're going to be like electric in terms of pushing Liverpool forward, knowing this is a title decider. Mm-hmm. So I feel like for us, we're going to see a fast start from us in terms of us coming out and trying to press Spurs and take the game to them. We might not be over attacking, in a sense, all out attack, but there's going to be a high press like we saw against Wolves and Leicester, where we are pressing and trying to win the midfield battle and controlling that area. So I do think the crowd's going to make it part because we've seen last weekend how the crowd, all the teams that had fans in the stadium, got points, got results. So I think the fans are playing a crucial part. We've got them tomorrow night.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting because we went so long without fans, and now you're seeing the impact. I mean, just look to last weekend when we played against Fulham. They came out guns blazing right from the start, and they kind of punched us in the mouth right away. Our touches were a little off. We were on our heels for the first 30 minutes of that half, and then they punished us. So I'm curious to see what Mourinho does in this game. Is he just let us dictate the tempo and control the match, which is what I would expect us to go for? Or is he going to try to do something similar and just come out pressing right from the gate? Being Mourinho, there's no reason why being Mourinho at Anfield, there's no reason why the players shouldn't be up for this. We know the fans are going to be up for it because it is Mourinho. It is Spurs. We're both tied for the top of the table at the moment. So it's going to be a really interesting affair.
All right. Well, I think at this point, let's get to our predictions. So,
one more question before we get to predictions.
Okay.
One more question.
Go ahead. Ask away.
Yeah, one more question before we get to predictions. And this is just interesting because I saw this on another podcast last night. So I just want to see what people's opinions are. If you had to name a Tottenham Liverpool team, no injuries, no form, top 11, we'll all agree on from goalkeeper to forward and of nation. What team are you going? So let's say you're going in goal. Who are you picking in goal?
Oh, that's a good one.
No questions asked.
It's funny because Lloris made his first attack against Palace at the weekend, but apart from that, he's been superb since Project Restart. I'll let you have Alisson because he's obviously one of the best goalkeepers in the world. I think Lloris is up. I mean, there's not too many goalkeepers that would be picked ahead of Hugo Lloris, but you can have Alisson in goal.
Okay, we'll go for that. Left back.
What would you have said there if you were on a Tottenham podcast?
I probably would have pushed for Lloris.
I don't know if you would have.
I'm going to push for Lloris harder, but I'm outnumbered here, guys, so I've got to be careful. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Left back.
Left back. Well, I mean, again, Liverpool. I know you guys you will say you've got the best left backs in the league, but I mean, Reguilon has been formidable since he's come to the Premier League. I know it's only a handful of games. I feel like I'm going to give up this one to you guys again because I feel like there's other players in the team that have to be in there for me at Tottenham. So you guys, by all means, can have obviously Robertson or by all means, go for it.
Okay, centre back, first one.
For me, I think you got to have Alderweireld in there. I think you got to have Alderweireld. For me, it'd be Alderweireld and probably Van Dijk in there. Those would be the two I'd have if I'm. Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree with that. We'll give you right back. Probably go Trent again.
Yeah, I can't make a case for Aurier. Even though he's an improvement, I really can't make a case just yet.
Okay, the midfield is a bit interesting. Who are we going for? Are we going for 4-3-3?
Yeah, we'll go 4-3-3. That's typically what both teams play. So
who's the DM?
I mean, guys, as I've said to you on this part, as I've said to you so far, I mean, Højbjerg for me has been sensational this season. I think he's, as I've said before, I think he's the bargain of the summer. So for me, I'd be pushing very, very hard for Højbjerg into being this combined 11.
Okay, I think I'd go for Fabinho, but I'm happy to give you Højbjerg. As the other guys, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give him Højbjerg just because Fabinho hasn't really played there much this season. I would pick Henderson over Højbjerg though.
Oh, honestly, Scans, what have you been watching this season? What's wrong with you?
Henderson's
I didn't say about form this season. I didn't say about form this season. I said overall. So taking form out and injuries, I said overall, who's a better player?
Oh, I mean, listen, Henderson for me, don't get me wrong, I think he's in that Liverpool team because of his passion. But I say Højbjerg, I've got to say on ability as well. The way he, the amount of kilometres that guy gets through on the pitch, I'd have to push hard for this, guys. And I'm outnumbered here, but I'm going to have to push hard for Højbjerg as that DM.
I think, honestly, my midfield three, if I was thinking about combined, would be Henderson, Højbjerg, and Thiago. I think that would be my midfield three if I had to pick.
So no Ndombele, no.
I just think the Premier League is not even ready to see what they're gonna get with Thiago when he comes into this Liverpool team. I think the moment Thiago comes in, people are gonna realize, oh, okay, this guy really was the key to this entire team, and that's why we signed him. You look at what he did at Bayern, you look at the dismantling that he does with his creative passing in the midfield, and I think if you combine that with the outside backs of Robertson and Trent, it's you pick your poison at that point.
And Ndombele moves in slow motion too.
Listen, this guy, even for the 60 minutes, he's class. He really is. But it's difficult to argue with you guys at the moment. Obviously, we're coming towards now the attacking lineup. So this will be very interesting.
Yes, this will be. So centre forward, obviously for me, it's Harry Kane. You can't. As much as I love Bobby, Kane's on a different level to him. So there's no debate there for me. Right wing,
Salah.
Easy.
I think the better question is going to be Son or Mane, because
that's what I said. That's an interesting one.
3v1 on this one.
Joe, that's a very honestly, Joe. What I think comparing those two is so hard because I think if you ask supporters who they would prefer, I honestly think there'd be like a split because I think Mane is an exceptional player. I think he is. I think when Liverpool paid that fee to Southampton all those years ago, I think many people were quite surprised. I think they were like, why are you paying that amount of money? But I tell you what, I mean, he is an exceptional player. I mean, he is. I think he could play for anybody. I do honestly believe that. And again, with Son, I'm amazed that, a Manchester United or a Liverpool, or dare I say a Real Madrid, a Barcelona, a Bayern Munich, Paris Saint-Germain have not come in for Heung-min Son. I'm amazed. Maybe it's because Spurs are, at the moment looking like they're going to be involved in, dare I say, a title race and trophies. But, Son is formidable. He really, really is. The guy scores goals, makes goals. Sonny's got to be in this team as well as Harry somewhere. We've got to find a way for Sonny, guys. I know, obviously, you're going to push hard for Mane. Sonny,
I think if you're going on this season alone, I would give you Heung-min Son. I would. Yeah. He's having a great season, but overall, I would go with Sadio Mane 100%.
Yeah, I think if you look at trajectory, like 2 years ago, the Champions League 2000 in 17-18 season, I think like Mane's had bigger moments than Song overall on a bigger level, but I think like this season, Song's been better than Mane, no doubt about it. He's been outstanding, probably arguably the best player in Europe this season. Pushing aside Harry Kane, one of them two has been the best in Europe this season. But I think overall, for me, I'd go for Mane. But I'm happy to let you have Song if the others are happy to do.
For this season, I'll give you Son.
Yeah.
For now, until Mane turns it on second half of the season, calling it now. I think, hey, coach, Klopp or Mourinho?
Oh man, that's a question.
Oh, that's tough.
I mean, if it's on trophies, guys, then it's got to be Mourinho, right? I think he's under the serial winner. If it's what he's won, it's Jose.
That is a tough one.
It depends what you're judging it on. If you're judging it on trophies won, then obviously it's Jose. I know people feel like Jose maybe lost a bit of his mojo. It's difficult because obviously Klopp's won the Premier League, he's won the Champions League more recently than Jose. And it's difficult. If you sound the base of this season as well, both performing very, very well. I've got to back my guy, though, haven't I? So I've got to back my guy.
Who are you going for? Steve?
I'm gonna take Klopp only because of recent history. I just when you look at, I mean, hey, Mourinho won the Europa with United, but it just seems like for me when you look at United's last couple teams, it seems to be you're gonna get good 3 good years out of them, and then that's it. So I think for me it's gonna be Klopp just because of hey, he turned us from doubters to believers, and I think Mourinho is doing something similar with Tottenham, but until he wins something with Tottenham, which I think he will, I think right now it's got to be Klopp.
I'm going with Jurgen. I'm going with Jurgen. I mean, Mourinho, he's had a big checkbook. A lot of different teams he's been on.
This is the slimmest checkbook he's actually ever had. Believe it or not.
I know. I'm giving you that. But United, Chelsea, Real Madrid.
Yeah, listen. Klopp spent some money as well. We can't forget Klopp. But I agree with you. I've been on a Liverpool podcast. I don't think I can argue this one, right? I think I might have to give you Klopp.
We'll take it.
All
right. Let's get to the actual predictions, though. Well, homie, why don't you start off? Why don't you give us scoreline prediction and goal scorers or man of the match, whatever you think.
I'm thinking it's going to be 2-1. I think Tottenham will score. Definitely I think Kane will get a goal because he always scores against us. Always. He did last year. He always scores against us. And I think it'll be 2-1 to us. But I think Kane's goal will be a consolation goal kind of thing. And then Liverpool will be on the cosh for the last 10 to 15 minutes trying to see it out. I think that's how it'll be. But I back Mane to get a goal tomorrow. Just for feeling that he will break his drought, and finally wake up. And I think Bobby to get a goal. I know I say it all the time, but I back him because he's a big man for big occasions. I back him to do something. I don't think Salah will score unless it's a penalty. I don't think Salah will score. So that's my prediction. 2-1, hard fought win.
I'm going to go 1-0. 1-0 Reds. I think they're going to do a good job of shutting down Harry Kane. And that's the key to stopping the Spurs side. Fabinho, as long as he's in there, should be able to do the job on Kane. And I know Jordan Henderson's going to be running all over the pitch alongside Gini Wijnaldum to help out our fullbacks and help out against Kane. So, I think we could keep a clean sheet.
What do you got, Ricky?
Oh, do you know what, guys? I think that Palace game has put some doubt into my head. I'm not going to lie to you. I think if we had beaten Palace, I would have gone and said, Liverpool, Spurs are capable of doing, the unthinkable and going there and maybe even getting there. I say, a 1-0 up at Anfield. I just feel like this game is, because of what's riding on it, because of mentality, because of pressure. My heart says 1-1, but my head says Liverpool are going to sneak it 2-1. But I can't come on a Liverpool podcast and not back my boys. So I'm going to say 1-1. I think Spurs will get a point. And I would say it's a hot take, and I'd say Højbjerg as the man of the match.
Well, honestly, I am going back and my heart tells me. Well, my head tells me I think it's going to be 1-1, a 1-1 draw as well. I just think that. With how Mourinho, I don't want to say park the bus, but his defensive mindset, it's going to be hard for us to break them down unless our front three goes back to their old form, which they haven't been in a while. And we do rely on them a lot with no creativity in the midfield. But I think the fact that this game's at home, the fact that we have, fans in the stands, I think that's going to make a little bit of an impact. And I think it's going to help us start a little bit faster than we typically do. So I think it'll be a 1-0 nail biter. Goal off a set piece, probably for a guy like Matip. I think if he's in there, he might get a header goal, something like that.
Positive news that City drew.
What's that?
City drew,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Breaking news. City just drew, and Chelsea lost. So this game is gonna be a massive game tomorrow. Let's see if Man U can drop more points, and it's going to be interesting the one to watch. But before we close out, we have to announce our 2 winners for the Yanks of the Cop 26-ounce ice shaker bottles. Thanks again to Chris Gronkowski for getting these taken care of for us. But our 2 winners who did the drawings, the first one, Twitter handle at LFCJulian01. Congratulations. I'll DM you right after this. And at JG_YNWA. So congratulations to both of you. You'll be getting a message from me. I just need your shipping information, and I'll send these right out to you. But We appreciate your guys' support, and that also wraps up this episode. So, Ricky, thanks again for coming on. All the Tottenham fans listening, definitely check out his podcast. I'm sure it's amazing stuff if you listen to this. But yeah, Ricky, thanks for coming on, and we'll definitely have to have you back for the second leg when that comes back.
Definitely.
Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, hopefully looking forward to when I return to speak to you guys. Spurs are still top of that Premier League.
Us 1-2. Us 1, you 2. I'd be happy with that. I can live with that. So we'll see. Until then, we'll be back tomorrow for our post-match reaction. So tune in for that. Otherwise, if you haven't, hit that like and subscribe button. We really appreciate it. But otherwise, up the Reds, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Ricky.
See you guys.
Cheers, guys. Really appreciate it. Take care.
Yeah, well.